Chapter 1667. Mo Lingtian looked at the message and the picture on the phone over and over again. Judging from the style of the picture, it was drawn by Xiaobao. The person in the picture should be Ning Tianxin. All good things must come to an end. What did it mean? At this time, he noticed that Ning Shi's current location showed that she was at the capital airport. After seeing the location clearly, Mo Lingtian's fingers trembled slightly. Before his brain could react, his body had already rushed out. Hey? Mo Lingtian, where are you going? Where's this guy going? I don't know. All the voices disappeared behind him. Mo Lingtian went downstairs and got into the car as fast as he could. Sitting in the driver's seat, Mo Lingtian glanced at the message from the corner of his eyes again. Just as he was about to start the engine, his expression froze and he suddenly stopped all his movements. Ning Shi's status was posted an hour ago. This meant she might have left long ago. Even if she hadn't left, it would take at least 2 hours to get to the airport during the morning rush hour. No matter what, he couldn't make it in time. For a moment, Mo Lingtian felt as if he had suddenly fallen from a high cliff. The feeling of weightlessness and dizziness engulfed him in an instant. He didn't know how much time had passed, but he was still leaning against the steering wheel with his phone in his hand. The place where his heartbeat seemed to have been hollowed out, and the cold wind whistled through it. It seemed that he didn't realize until this moment that the girl who always stayed in the same place no matter when he turned around had really left his life. After leaving the airport, She was still thinking about Ning Tianxin. Sweetheart, let me ask you, what kind of person is Qin Mufeng? Is he reliable? He has a good personality. His private life is simple. His family environment and parents are tolerant and open-minded. Lu Tingxiao's simple words contained all the things that Ning Shi cared about. Ning Shi's expression softened a little. I hope this guy can work hard. I don't know how good he is at flirting with girls, but he is a psychology major. If he can't do it, let him ask me. I'll teach him. As long as it's not Mo Cha-Cha, as long as he treats my sister Tianxin sincerely, I'll help him unconditionally. Lu Tingxiao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She was even more anxious than Qin Mufeng. This kind of thing can't be rushed. Your sister needs to think it through herself. I know. Ning Shi sighed. She couldn't be blamed for being so anxious. It was because she knew Ning Tianxin's personality too well. With her personality, the last thing she wanted was to bring trouble to others. The better the person treated her, the more she would do that. She was afraid that she would really choose to be alone for the rest of her life. It wasn't easy for her to come out and meet up with Little Bun. Ning Shi tried her best to raise her spirits. Baby, where do you want to go to play today? Mom, can we go to the amusement park? Of course. In this aspect, Little Bun was exactly like an ordinary child. Whenever she had time, she would let her take her to various places where other children played. She even took her to KFC once. The reason was because she saw that other children liked to go there. Little Bun gradually blended into the crowd and became like an ordinary child. Ning Shi was naturally the happiest. The family of 3 played for a whole day and then happily returned home with great satisfaction. Mommy, can we go up to the roof and look at the stars? After reaching home, Little Bun suddenly raised his little head, his eyes abnormally bright as he requested, Mommy, can we go to the roof and look at the stars? Chapter 1668. Ning Shi chuckled and rubbed the little guy's head. Okay. Then she took the Little Bun to the roof. Lu Tingxiao followed behind him and looked at his son thoughtfully. When they reached the roof, Ning Shi looked up at the sky and said regretfully, It's a pity that we can't see so many stars in the capital. I'll take you to the Peach Blossom Land next time. The Little Bun looked at his mother with satisfaction. Mom, it's okay. We can see something else. Ning Shi blinked in confusion. Something else? What? The Little Bun pursed his lips and pointed to the sky. Ning Shi looked in the direction of Little Bun's finger and saw a flash in front of her eyes. A cluster of flames rose vertically from the horizon and then exploded in the air with a bang. Then, dazzling fireworks exploded and turned into a few words at the same time. Lu Jingli, who was tasting wine on the balcony next door, and Jiang Mai, who was playing games in the villa behind, heard a sudden bang. Then they saw the dazzling fireworks in the sky, which formed 3 words, I love you. Jiang Mai's face darkened as he looked at the 3 words. His hand trembled, and the game character on the screen died tragically.
Fuck.
Lu Jingli crawled up from the ground, leaned on the railing, and looked up at the sky.
Fuck.
Can't you do it? You're an old couple and you're still showing off your love. Can't you let me rest for a few days? My heart is full of holes. Just as Lu Jingli was spouting off nonstop, there was another explosion, followed by 2 big fireworks in the sky. Mom. I love you, Mom. Lu Jingli suddenly froze in place, dumbfounded. He thought it was his brother who was playing romantic, but it turned out to be Xiaobao. My little bun, how old was he? This damned child was simply too amazing. So what if he looked good? Jiang Mai looked at the words, I love your mom, and I love you, Mom, and 10 miles of spring breeze is not as good as Mom outside the window. So, he was only a little bun away from his wife. This godlike assist was enough to make him kneel. Compared to Lu Jingli and Jiang Mai, the one with the most complicated feelings was a certain great demon king. In the morning, he had already discovered that the little fellow was secretly preparing something, but he didn't expect it to be this son. Do you know you stole your father's job? However, the little fellow did remind him that as time went by, the 2 of them became more and more compatible and tacit, so much so that the way they interacted with each other became more and more like an old couple. In addition, he really wasn't good at this aspect, so it did lack a bit of passion and romance. Although his son did not inherit these skills from him, he did inherit a lot of romantic genes from Ningxi. Wow, these are... Ningxi hadn't recovered yet, and her face was full of surprise. Even if her flirting skills were top-notch and she was familiar with all kinds of tricks, Ningxi was still as excited as a young girl. Xiaobao, did you prepare this for Mommy? Xiaobao nodded shyly, with a hint of nervousness and anticipation in his eyes. Mom, the books say that girls need romance. Mom, do you like it? Ningxi's response was to hug little Bun and kiss him fiercely. I love it. Chapter 1669. Ding. Ding. Ningxi received 2 messages on her phone. Dirty Demon King. Fuck, I'm moving. See you. Koi Prince Woof. Ningxi burst out laughing. After watching the fireworks, Ningxi reluctantly sent Xiaobao back to the old mansion with Lu Tingxiao. They returned to the palace. Lu Tingxiao took out a square black velvet gift box from his pocket and handed it to her. Ningxi blinked. What is it? A gift, Lu Tingxiao replied. Ningxi took it and asked suspiciously, It's not a holiday. Why are you giving me a gift? Do I need a reason? Lu Tingxiao raised an eyebrow. He looked like an overbearing CEO. Ningxi chuckled and opened the box. The next second she was almost blinded. Oh my! Lu Tingxiao had given her a diamond necklace. It seemed to be the newest model from TFN called Full Sky of Stars. It was indeed as its name suggested. It was too dazzling. Ningxi looked at the sparkling diamond necklace with an indescribable expression. What's wrong? Lu Tingxiao asked. Sweetheart, you like diamonds? She was shocked that he had the same hobby as a certain someone. Lu Tingxiao replied unhurriedly. I don't like diamonds. I just like how it looks on you. Fuck. Ningxi was instantly shot by an arrow with a small heart.
Pooh.
Her sweetheart was amazing. He could turn something rotten into something magical with just one sentence. Ningxi leaned over and kissed the man's cheek. Thank you. Put it on for me. Lu Tingxiao picked up the necklace and put it on her neck. Does it look good? Ningxi's accessories were mostly jade. She rarely wore diamonds because she was sick of looking at them. However, she felt that the diamond necklace was beautiful. No wonder women liked diamonds. Lu Tingxiao hugged her waist and said, Give me some time, Xiaoxi. Trust me, I'll take care of everything. The tea party will probably be held in a few days, but Xiaobao will be able to stall for enough time for me to settle everything. Lu Tingxiao calmly comforted her. I believe you, Ningxi said with a complicated expression. However, she didn't know what Lu Tingxiao was going to do and how far he would go. Moreover, the other side was definitely not easy to deal with. If he was forced into a corner, moreover, that person had done her a favor. If it really reached the point where her life was at stake, she might not be able to continue staying out of it. Lu Tingxiao seemed to have noticed her worry. He stroked her hair and said, "The Lu family has a rule that forbids brothers from killing each other." Hearing this, Ning Shi was instantly moved. She knew what Lu Tingxiao meant. He meant that if it really came to that, no matter what the other party would do, he would not kill them. Not only because of the Lu family's rules, but also because of her, because he was afraid that she would be put in a difficult position. Lu Tingxiao, thank you. Lu Tingxiao raised his eyebrows. Are you sure that's what you want to say? Ning Shi chuckled, jumped up and kissed the man's lower lip. All right, it should be. I love you. Chapter 1670. These days, Ning Shi took advantage of the free time she had after finishing the filming. Every day, she would make time to carefully prepare nutritious and delicious lunches for Xiao Bao to bring to school. During this period of time, Xiao Bao had been working too hard. It was clearly an adult matter, but he, a child, had to deal with it. Hopefully, it would all end soon. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed. The entire Lu family was mobilized, and the socialite tea party that had been prepared for a long time finally began. In order to welcome the young ladies, the entire old mansion had been renovated. It was quaint and quiet, yet exquisite and grand. There were all kinds of luxury cars parked at the entrance, and the well-dressed young ladies were competing with each other for beauty. There were all kinds of styles, dazzling the eyes of the onlookers. How could Lu Jingli not come to gossip on such a grand day? No, he came to stare. At this moment, looking at the exaggerated scene in front of him, Lu Jingli had goosebumps. Sigh. It was fortunate that his brother was in front of him. Otherwise, all of this would have fallen on his head. Jingli, what are you standing there for? Hurry up and pick up Xiao Bao from school. Scum. Also, don't stay out of this. Today, you should also look around and see if there are any girls that you like. Mom, what did you say? The wind is too strong. I can't hear. Lu Jingli exaggeratedly stretched out his voice and disappeared like a wisp of smoke. Behind him, Yan Rui helplessly glared at her son. Forget it. She had to deal with things one at a time. Right now, the most important thing was to settle the matter with Ting Xiao. Auntie Lu, why don't I see Xiao Bao? A clever girl had already come up to her. Xiao Bao is still at school. Jingli has already gone to pick him up. Everyone wait a moment. Let's go to the courtyard to drink some tea. Is that so? It's okay. Studying is more important. Soon, Xiao Bao was picked up by Lu Jingli. Although it wasn't the first time the socialites had seen Xiao Bao, when they saw that the little fellow looked exactly the same as Lu Tingxiao, they were still stunned by his cuteness. Even if they knew that Lu Tingxiao had a son with an unlucky mother and that he would be a stepmother after marrying over, they couldn't help but like such a cute Shota. The little prince is so cute. If I could have such a cute and adorable son, I would smile even in my dreams. I heard that the little prince is actually quite easy to get along with. When Lu Jingli saw that all the girls were deceived by Xiao Bao's adorable appearance, the corner of his mouth twitched as he muttered, "Tsk tisk, stupid humans. You'll be crying later." Little Bun was very efficient. As soon as he came back, he held the thick list of candidates that he had prepared over the past few days and said to his grandparents, "Grandpa, Grandma, we can begin. You just got home. Don't you need to rest for a while?" Lu Chongshan's heart ached.
There's no need, Grandpa.
Little Bao isn't tired. Getting down to business is more important. Little Bun had a serious expression. Lu Chongshan nodded with a gratified expression. All right, I'll listen to Xiao Bao. Let's begin. Are the rules still as we discussed before? Xiao Bao nodded. Yes, I'll set the questions. The questions vary from person to person, and I'll set them according to the situation on the spot. Those who pass can stay and move on to the next round. All right. Lu Chongshan quickly called the butler over and asked him to inform everyone that they could begin. Chapter 1671. Outside in the courtyard, The socialites who were chatting and drinking tea were all given number plates, and those whose number plate was called could enter. The butler tactfully said that everyone could hold on to these signs and play some games later, such as a lucky draw or something. However, everyone was well aware of what these signs were really for. Sigh, I'm so nervous. I wonder how the Liu family is going to test me. My family tried all means to find out for me, trying to get the questions, but they didn't find anything. They only know that the questions are set by the Crown Prince, but they don't know what the questions are. Of course, the Crown Prince is a genius, and his thinking is different from ordinary people. The questions must be especially difficult. The tragedy is that I didn't do well in school, and I've been cramming. What's the use of cramming? The Crown Prince knows everything about music, chess, calligraphy, astronomy, and geography. Who knows what he's going to test on? The scope is too wide. The education that these socialites had received since they were young focused on cultivating their character and some flashy things. If the Crown Prince were to test them on things like physics, mathematics, and chemistry, they really couldn't do anything. These things couldn't be learned in a short period of time. Listening to the discussions around her, Qi Yingying snorted mockingly. Isn't it too late to make a last-minute effort at a time like this? Qi Yingying had always been arrogant, and everyone was a little afraid of her. Although they were dissatisfied with her mockery, they could only complain secretly. However, Qi Yingying was a Harvard graduate, and they had to admit that she was a talented woman. What's there to be arrogant about? Although she has a higher chance of winning compared to us, don't forget that there's still the Guan family. The Guan family has connections with Liu Chongyuan, and they're on good terms with the Liu family. I'm afraid they've already decided on her, and we're just going through the motions. That's right. But even if there's only a glimmer of hope, we still have to give it a try. After all, that was the position that all women dreamed of for a long time. Number 1, Miss Qi, please come in. The butler had already started calling out numbers, and everyone was so nervous that they fell silent. That's right, the first one was Qi Yingying. Because of this, everyone was even more nervous. If Qi Yingying performed well, they wouldn't have a chance, and they would have prepared for nothing. In the house, Xiaobao sat on the sofa, while Lu Chongshan and Yan Rui sat opposite him. Lu Jingli was afraid that Yan Rui would urge him to look for girls if he stayed, but he was really curious about how his steamed bun was going to test those socialites. In the end, his curiosity won out, and he decided to stay. Moreover, he could also broadcast it live for his brother and little Cece later. After seeing Qi Yingying, Lu Jingli was stunned for a moment. Io, the first one was already a powerful character? Hello, big sisters. Xiao Bao greeted her sweetly when he saw her. When Qi Yingying heard the little fellow's obedient greeting, her tense nerves immediately relaxed a lot.
Hello, Xiao Bao.
My surname is Qi. We met at the banquet before. Yes, I remember. You are Qi Shuai's sister. Yes. Qi Yingying was overjoyed. She had flown into a rage when her little fatty had offended Xiao Bao last time. However, she didn't expect that the two of them would get to know each other after a fight, and they got along well. Big Sister Qi, I'm going to start setting the question. Okay? Qi Yingying subconsciously straightened her back. Chapter 1672. Lu Chongshan, Yan Rui, and Lu Jingli looked at Xiao Bao nervously. Then, Xiao Bao blinked and asked, Sister, can you sing? Qi Yingying was stunned. Yes. Xiao Bao said happily, That's great. Can you sing Little Jumping Frog for me? I like this song very much. I listen to it every night, or I won't be able to fall asleep. Qi Yingying was dumbfounded. Little Jumping Frog? What was that? No. The point was, wasn't Little Crown Prince a genius? Why did he ask her to sing a nursery rhyme for him? But if she really wanted to point out what was wrong, she couldn't say a single word. She was just a child who had just entered kindergarten. She wanted to listen to nursery rhymes to sleep at night and hoped that her mother could also sing to her in the future. This was very normal. Lu Chongshan and Yan Rui were also very surprised that Xiao Bao would ask such a question. But after thinking about it, they felt sorry for him. No matter how sensible he was still a child. Xiao Bao's question was right. Sister Qi doesn't know how to sing? Xiaobao looked disappointed. Qi Yingying looked embarrassed. Sorry, I really don't know this song. Xiaobao asked expectantly. Then do you know other nursery rhymes, Sister Qi? The little guy seemed to like her, and even gave her a second chance. Qi Yingying looked even worse. Well, I don't know. I'm not good at this kind of song. She had received an elite education since she was a child and didn't know anything about nursery rhymes. Even if she had heard 1 or 2 lines, it would be worse if she sang it with difficulty. She didn't expect little Crown Prince to ask such a question. She wasn't prepared at all. Thus, Qi Yingying, the talented girl from Harvard, was defeated by a song called Little Jumping Frog. Lu Jingli recalled the first time he heard Ning Shi sing Little Jumping Frog to Xiaobao and felt very emotional. At first, he was amazed that his little bun liked such a childish nursery rhyme. Later, he was amazed that little Cici could sing nursery rhymes. As Lu Jingli thought about it, he added his brother and little Cici into a group and then sent a message in the group. First, Qi Yingying has failed. Xiaobao's topic was, sing this song Little Jumping Frog, are you guys fierce or not? Very quickly, there was a reply in the group. Lu Tingxiao, Ning Shi, you're the fierce one. My adorable baby is so cute. The 2 elders didn't have any objections to Qi Yingying's elimination. Instead, they started to coax little Bun. Xiaobao, don't be sad. There are still many older sisters behind you. Xiaobao will like them. Right. Xiaobao, let's continue. At this moment, when the young ladies outside saw Qi Yingying walking out with an ugly expression on her face, their hearts sank. Why does Qi Yingying look so pale? Eliminated? His face is as dark as that. That's for sure. It's over. Even Qi Yingying has been eliminated. Just how difficult are the questions? Number 2, Miss Song. Please come in. After the second daughter came in, Xiaobao greeted her obediently, as usual. Then, he said, from now on, as long as Big Sister can make me speak within 10 minutes, Big Sister can pass. Chapter 1673. The Song family's eldest daughter, Song Yuan, didn't know how to react. Make the little crown prince speak in 10 minutes? It's just making him speak. Even if it's just 1 word, isn't that too easy? Sister, let's begin. Little Bun politely reminded her. Then, he maintained his posture and quietly sat on the sofa. Just as Song Yuan was thinking about this, the moment the little fellow on the sofa finished speaking, the entire feeling he gave off changed. Just a moment ago, he was clearly an active and cute little Shota, but now, it was as if there was an invisible barrier separating him from the outside world. It was as if he was in a completely different world. Seeing this, Song Yuan's heart skipped a beat. She had originally prepared all sorts of things to tease the little fellow, but now, all of them were swallowed up by the child's pitch-black and cold eyes. Lu Jingli narrowed his eyes and sighed to himself. Little Bun really put a lot of thought into this. Cold sweat almost dripped down Song Yuan's forehead. After hesitating for a long time, she finally asked, Xiaobao. Sister's family runs a chocolate factory. We have a lot of delicious chocolates. Can I take you to play next time? The little fellow's reaction was as if he hadn't heard her at all. To be more precise, the little fellow didn't intentionally avoid her. His eyes were actually looking at her, but it was clear that the person in front of him didn't enter his eyes at all. It was as if she wasn't the same as him, and he couldn't understand her language. Lu Chongshan and Yan Rui, who had been solemn ever since they heard Xiaobao's question, now had even more serious expressions on their faces. Xiaobao's current appearance was like a nightmare to them. As time passed, Song Yuan probably wasn't good at interacting with children to begin with. In front of Xiaobao, she was even more nervous. Her clumsy conversational skills made the atmosphere more and more awkward. Time's up, Lu Jingli reminded her. 10 minutes finally passed. Song Yuan's first reaction wasn't disappointment or sadness. Instead, she let out a long sigh of relief. It was finally over. She finally understood why Qi Yingying's expression was so ugly when she walked out. Big sister, do you need some more time? Xiaobao immediately turned into a refined and courteous little Shota and spoke in a very easygoing manner. Previously, all the socialites, including Yan Rui and Lu Chongshan, thought that Xiao Bao would make things difficult for them. But in reality, the little fellow was unexpectedly gentle. Without waiting for Song Yuyan to speak, the two elders hurriedly spoke one after another about Xiao Bao's generosity. No, Xiao Bao. The rules have already been set. If you change them, it won't count. Yan Rui was anxious. All right, that's it. Lu Chongshan quickly settled down. They really didn't want to continue looking at Xiao Bao's previous appearance. In fact, Xiao Bao's previous appearance made the two of them feel uneasy. It was as if Xiao Bao's normal and cheerful appearance was just an illusion, and if they were not careful, he would become like that again. That was something they absolutely did not want to see. Lu Chongshan and Yan Rui couldn't bear to continue after trying two girls. However, Xiao Bao had already efficiently called in the third person. The third girl's style was different from the first two. The first two were socialites, but this one had short hair and was dressed in a neutral outfit. She looked clean, neat, and valiant, which made people's eyes light up. Chapter 1674. Lu Chongshan and Yan Rui subconsciously straightened their backs when they saw the girl who walked in. This girl was a collateral relative. Compared to the other girls, she was more lively, and it was said that she was quite skilled. Perhaps an extroverted girl like her could compliment Lil Bao. I'm Liang Yu, 23 years old this year. I like to work out and I've practiced judo, taekwondo. The girl introduced herself simply. Hello, Sister Liang. Please wait a moment. Lil Bao greeted the girl, then turned to look at Lu Jingli. Second uncle, I need your help with this question. Okay, no problem. How do I help? Lu Jingli replied straightforwardly. Lil Bao waved his hand, and Lu Jingli immediately strolled over happily, squatting down in front of Lil Bao according to his request. Then, Lil Bao turned to look at the girl. Sister, my question is very simple. As Lil Bao spoke, he did a clean flying kick, which landed on Lu Jingli's temple. However, it was just a feint and the kick did not really land. My question is, how should this move be countered? Lu Chongshan and Yan Rui looked at their precious grandson's handsome appearance, and their hearts were filled with pride. Liang Yu did not expect Lil Bao to ask such a question, but she had just said that she was good at these things, so it was not a problem for him to ask her what she was good at. Instead, it was very reasonable. Liang Yu deliberated over her words. This move, if there's enough strength, there's basically no way to counter it. At the temple, one kick will knock a person unconscious, Liang Yu muttered, but I can try. Lil Bao nodded. Okay, I'll let my second uncle spar with you, okay? Of course, thank you. Following that, Lu Jingli practiced with the girl more than 10 times, and the result was failure every single time. In the end, Liang Yu could only be eliminated. Jingli, isn't it a little unfair for a man like you to test a little girl? Seeing that 3 people were eliminated at once, and all of them were outstanding, Yan Rui was a little anxious. Lu Jingli immediately said helplessly, Mom, even if you don't know this, you should be able to tell that I didn't even use 10% of my strength just now, afraid that I would hurt a delicate girl like her. If she really has a skill, I'd be convinced. If she can't be cultured, at least she can use martial arts, right? But what she did was completely for show. If you don't have the ability, then don't set up a persona of good martial arts. Now that I've been exposed, is it still my fault? Lu Chongshan comforted himself. Forget it. Let's move on to the next one. It's better for girls to be gentle and virtuous. After a short break, the 4th girl walked in. This time, the girl completely met Lu Chongshan's requirements. She was gentle, virtuous, and good at cooking. My question is, I want to eat the candied haws made by my sister. Is that okay? Xiao Bao said. Hearing Xiao Bao's question, the girl was stunned for a moment. Her culinary skills were not an exaggeration. She had indeed specially practiced cooking, and both Chinese and Western dishes were no problem for her. But could candied hawthorn be considered a dish? The girl looked like she was in a difficult position. It was obvious that she would not do it. At this moment, Lu Chongshan and Yan Rui were completely on Xiaobao's side. They didn't think that there was anything wrong with Xiaobao's questions. Instead, they revealed disappointed expressions. Chapter 1675. Didn't they say she was a good cook? Why couldn't she make candied haws? They remembered that Ningxi had made candied haws for Xiaobao, and he had even sent some to the old mansion. Those candied haws were made into all kinds of beautiful and delicious, much better than those sold outside. When the fourth one was about to be eliminated, Xiaobao's expression suddenly changed. The little boy covered his stomach with his hand and looked in pain. Yan Rui noticed that something was wrong with Xiaobao and hurried over. Xiaobao, what's wrong? I'm fine. How can you be fine? Your face is so pale. Yan Rui was anxious. It's okay, Grandma. It's just a stomachache. Xiaobao comforted her, but soon, cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Why does he suddenly have a stomachache? Xingwu, get the car ready. Get the car ready to go to the hospital. The butler hesitated. What about the ladies outside? Let them disperse first. Seeing Xiaobao so uncomfortable that he was vomiting and convulsing, the two elders panicked and couldn't care less about anything else. Lu Jingli frowned. He quickly picked up Xiaobao and dashed out of the door like an arrow. At the capital hospital, Xiaobao was sent to the emergency room. Lu Chongshan and Yan Rui were anxious outside, and Lu Jingli hurried to inform his brother and Ningxi. Dad, Mom, don't be so nervous. Xiaobao's stomach is probably just uncomfortable. Lu Jingli was comforting them when the doctor finally came out. The two elders hurried over and asked, Doctor, how is the child? Don't worry, he's fine now, the doctor answered. Hearing this, Yan Rui finally calmed down. What the hell is going on? Why is he like this? Just as she was asking, they heard hurried footsteps behind them. Lu Tingxiao and Ningxi had arrived. Where's Xiaobao? How is he? Ningxi only had eyes for the little boy in the hospital bed. She ran over and grabbed Xiaobao's hand. The little boy's face was pale, and his lips were cracked from dehydration. Ningxi felt as if her heart was being pricked by needles. What happened? Lu Tingxiao asked. The doctor handed over a medical report. We've tested the child's vomit. There's a certain amount of toxins in the food, which can cause symptoms such as vomiting and diarrhea. Lu Chongshan and Yan Rui's expressions changed. Lu Jingli was a little surprised, but Lu Tingxiao's face was expressionless.
What?
Food poisoning? How is that possible? Xiaobao's diet has been. Yan Rui said with a frown. Xiaobao has been eating dinner at home these days. That girl prepared breakfast and lunch. Xiaobao didn't eat anything after he was picked up by Jingli this afternoon. He didn't even take a sip of water before he started. This meant that Xiaobao only ate Ningxi's cooking today. Yan Rui and Lu Chongshan both turned to look at Ningxi. Ningxi's entire body and mind were focused on Little Bun. When she heard this, her attention was slightly diverted. What? Xiaobao had food poisoning? And from what Yan Rui said, Xiaobao had only eaten her cooking today. Lu Chongshan's breathing was slightly ragged, and his expression was extremely ugly. Tingxiao, it's up to you how to deal with this. Lu Tingxiao said expressionlessly. Deal with what? Chapter 1676. Lu Chongshan was exasperated. You bastard. Xiaobao is your son. How can you abandon your son for a woman? This woman did this to Xiaobao just to stop you from marrying someone else. Are you still going to cover up for her? On such an occasion, Xiaobao's accident had caused the tea party to be interrupted. Coupled with his inherent prejudice, Lu Chongshan naturally thought of Ningxi as the biggest beneficiary at the first moment. Yan Rui also thought of this. She looked at Ningxi coldly and stood next to Xiaobao vigilantly. Tingxiao, you have gone too far this time. Ningxi frowned and was about to speak when Lu Tingxiao gave her a reassuring look and looked at them calmly. Reason?
Reason?
Do I need a reason? Everyone knows what Sima Zhao is up to. According to you, Xiaoxi did this to stop the tea party, right? Lu Tingxiao asked. Lu Chongshan snorted. Isn't that the reason? Lu Tingxiao said, that's not true. Lu Chongshan took a deep breath. Tell me, why is it not true? Lu Tingxiao said, the tea party is a way for us to stall for time. Why did she stop it? Lu Chongshan, Yan Rui. The two of them were almost choked to death by Lu Tingxiao's calm and confident words. Lu Jingli's mouth twitched, and he tried to smooth things over. Dad, Mom, can you calm down? We haven't found out the truth yet. Isn't it inappropriate to convict him now? Maybe Xiaobao ate something else in school? Xiaobao never eats anything outside, Yan Rui said firmly. Lu Jingli could only say, fine, fine, fine. Even if Xiaobao only ate what my sister-in-law prepared, how can you be sure that someone didn't do anything to him? According to what you said, my sister-in-law did this to stop the blind date. So, can I also say that someone deliberately used this incident to frame my sister-in-law? Both of you have been bewitched by this woman, Lu Chongshan roared, and was about to continue when he heard a weak voice. Mom is here. Ningxi immediately held Xiaobao's hand. Xiaobao, you're awake. Don't get up. Lie down properly. Lu Chongshan and Yan Rui had no time to be dissatisfied with Ningxi calling herself Mom. They hurriedly ran to the bedside. Seeing the little fellow's weak appearance, they felt distressed. When Xiaobao saw his mother by his side, he revealed an incomparably relieved smile and rubbed his soft face against his mother's hand. Then, Xiaobao looked at his grandpa and grandma and said apologetically, Gran? I'm so sorry, Xiaobao lied to you. Lu Chongshan and Yan Rui looked at each other before looking at their grandson. Darling, what are you talking about? Did he lie to us? Little Treasure nodded and enunciated each word with a serious expression. I lied to you when I said I would seriously consider those big sisters. My real goal was to stall for time. I only have my mother in my heart. No matter how smart, outstanding, or beautiful she is, she's not my mother. I only want my mother. Besides, my mother is the best. Xiaobao. Ningxi was so touched that she didn't know what to say. Chapter 1677. Lu Chongshan and Yan Rui were speechless as they listened to their son's innocent words. Lu Jingli was almost moved to tears. He mumbled, Dad, Mom, it's not that I want to criticize you, but sometimes you two are too stubborn. Especially Dad. Why do you always look at people with colored glasses? Although it's understandable that you're afraid of ropes for 10 years after being bitten by a snake, you can't blame everyone, can you? Shut up, you little brat. What do you know? Lu Chongshan reprimanded his youngest son and looked at Lu Tingxiao. Tingxiao, come out with me for a second. Lu Jingli immediately gave his brother a look that said, Don't worry, I'm here. Lu Tingxiao touched Xiaobao's forehead and said to Ningxi, I'm leaving for a while.
Okay.
In the deserted corridor, Lu Chongshan's face darkened. Tingxiao, are you the same as Jingli? Do you think that I'm stubborn and unreasonable? Lu Tingxiao replied, Yes. Lu Chongshan was speechless. Lu Chongshan was so angry that he almost couldn't breathe. Father, you're worried, prejudiced, and dissatisfied with Ningxi because you're worried that I might cause the destruction of the entire Lu family if I make a mistake during this critical period, Lu Tingxiao said. In fact, Lu Chongshan and Yan Rui's attitude toward Ningxi had softened a lot. But because of this incident, their attitude suddenly became tense again. Therefore, resolving this matter was the root of the problem. Lu Chongshan's expression softened. At least you're still rational. I'll resolve everything in 7 days, Lu Tingxiao said. 7 days. Lu Chongshan was so angry that he almost laughed. Even though his son had always been his pride, it was too arrogant to settle such a powerful figure in 7 days. Let's not talk about whether you can keep your promise. Even if everything is resolved, what are you going to say about what happened today? How are you going to prove that she wasn't the one who poisoned Xiaobao? I just asked Xingwu to investigate. There are surveillance cameras at home and at school. During this period of time, Xiaobao's meals were not touched by any suspicious person. The only one who could have done something was her. I don't need to say anything about the influence environment has on a person. You also understand. Let's not talk about what kind of personality she would have if she grew up in that kind of barren land. Back then, the Ning family would rather have an adopted daughter than acknowledge her. They even sent her to a faraway country. Don't you have any doubts? Other than the fact that she couldn't appear in public, was there an even worse truth behind it? In this circle, there are countless cases like this. How can I not worry about Xiaobao's mother, the future mistress of the Lu family, being sent abroad just to cover up their shame? How can I not worry about Xiaobao's mother, the future mistress of the Lu family? Just based on the negligible blood relationship between her and the Zhuang family? Are you sure of her character, and that she won't harm Xiaobao? This was what Lu Chongshan cared about the most. What happened today had obviously provoked his fragile nerves again, causing his long-suppressed dissatisfaction and worry to burst out. Lu Tingxiao said word by word. First, I will fulfill my promise. Second, I will tell you the whole truth when the time comes. Third, as for father's concerns about Xiaoxi's character, time will reveal a person's true nature. You have always refused to understand her. How can you know what she really is based on your so-called speculation? Lu Chongshan frowned and said nothing. After a long while, he said, Okay, you said I am biased, then I will give her a chance. Chapter 1678. In the ward. Seeing Xiaobao relying on Ningxi so much, Yan Rui sighed softly. Xiaobao, do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? Xiaobao clung to Ningxi's arms and shook his head. As long as his mother was with him, he would be fine. Ningxi patted Xiaobao's back and coaxed him to sleep. Then she looked at Yan Rui and said, Mrs. Liu, I'll give you an explanation about Xiaobao's poisoning. When Yan Rui heard this, she did not know what to say. She was also a mother. She could more or less tell if a woman was sincere to her child. However, there was no knowing what was in a man's heart. This concerned Xiaobao's safety, so she really did not dare to be careless. Mom, what's wrong, baby?
Sing.
Okay, Mom will sing for you. What do you want to hear? Little Frog. Okay. When Lu Tingxiao came in, he saw the girl holding Xiaobao and humming softly. Yan Rui looked at the two of them with a complicated expression. Sisi, be quiet. Xiaobao is asleep. Ningxi carefully put Xiaobao back on the bed and stood up. Out of the ward, Ningxi's face suddenly turned cold. Given how much the Lu family valued Xiaobao, they must have investigated it immediately. If the problem was not with the Lu family or the school, it might have happened when she was with him. Lu Tingxiao took the girl in his arms, and a dark gleam flashed across his gentle eyes. Don't blame yourself. It's not your fault. Have a good rest, and focus on your work. I'll take care of everything. Ningxi seemed to be thinking of something. She looked a little absent-minded and nodded sullenly. Okay. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. Too many things had happened in just 3 days. After Song Lin, 3 more major shareholders of Lu's group had changed sides. Yunshin's shares had reached a terrible figure of 28%, and he had openly entered the board of directors of Lu Enterprises. He had won over a group of senior executives and shareholders who were dissatisfied with Lu Tingxiao's harsh rule and had been dissatisfied with him. It had only been a few months since the other party had returned to the country, and he had madly purchased Lu Enterprises shares with a huge amount of wealth. It was like a sharp knife piercing into the heart of Lu Enterprises Group, causing the entire Lu Enterprises and even the entire capital to be in a state of panic. When Lu Chongshan learned that even Qi Kaiqing, who had fought with him at the beginning, had betrayed Lu Enterprises and sold his shares to Yunshin after showing his loyalty to him, he was so angry that he got sick on the spot. Seeing that the situation was getting more and more serious, Yan Rui's face was full of worry. Why would old Qi suddenly sell his shares behind our backs? Was it because of Yingying being eliminated at the tea party? But because of Xiaobao's accident, we had already cancelled the tea party. Lu Chongshan was breathing heavily, and his fingers were trembling as he said, Rui, go to the Guan family immediately. Remember to visit them more often. Some things that should be put on the agenda should be put on the agenda. Go and tell Guan Rui that it's my idea. Although there were many candidates for the socialite position, there were only a few suitable ones. The Guan family was very powerful both at home and abroad, and Guan Xiao knew them best. She and Ting Xiao had known each other since they were young and had a certain emotional foundation. In addition, Lu Chongyuan had been playing matchmaker, so Lu Chongshan was most inclined to the Guan family. Chapter 1679. Previously, at Mo Jianzhang's birthday banquet, the Guan family had secretly attacked Ningxi, which had caused a rift between him and the Guan family. But in the end, it didn't affect him too much. After all, it didn't affect his interests. Moreover, he was already very dissatisfied with Ningxi. Under such circumstances, his interests naturally drove him to make the most appropriate decision. He had already made a mistake once. He couldn't watch the Lu family be destroyed in his hands. Chongshan, should we wait a little longer? Didn't Ting Xiao say that he already has a solution? Yan Rui thought for a moment and said hesitantly, "Solution? It's already been 3 days and all I can see is Lu Corporation on the brink of destruction. I can't bet the Lu Enterprises on his words. If it was in the past, I could still believe him, but now he's head over heels in love with that woman." Lu Chongshan said with a trembling voice. All right, I know. I'll go. Don't get agitated. How many times has the doctor told you not to get angry? Yan Rui said helplessly. And the most important thing is, don't let that woman be alone with Xiao Bao. I know what I'm doing, don't worry. At the same time, in a villa in the suburbs of the capital, Xiao Yi was alone in a dark room. The table in the middle of the room was lit with incense and candles, and there was a picture of a woman. The man stared at the picture on the table with a burning gaze, his expression dark. Lan don't worry. I'll be able to avenge you soon. I'll make all of them pay the price. Dong dong dong. Someone knocked on the door. Xiao Yi immediately regained his cold expression. Come in. Feng Jin pushed the door open and hurriedly reported, Uncle Xiao, we've settled the matter with the Liang family. When Xiao Yi heard this, his eyes flashed and he nodded in satisfaction. Very good. Money could solve most of the problems in this world, and even if money couldn't shake things, there would definitely be a breakthrough. Because as long as one was human, there would definitely be a weakness. The Lu Corporation seemed to be an unshakable giant, but the bigger the corporation, the more problems there were hidden underneath. Once he uncovered the truth, there would be nothing left to hide. After Feng Jin reported the recent progress, he said hesitantly, but Uncle Qiao, isn't everything too fast, too smooth? Qiao Yi glanced at him and said, You overestimated Lu Corporation. We've prepared for so many years, and this is all we've got. Are you afraid? Uncle Qiao, you're right. Feng Jin Man nodded in agreement. Moreover, they had carefully considered every aspect, so it was impossible for them to make any mistakes. Lu Group CEO's office. Lu Tingxiao was in the middle of a discussion with Lu Jingli when Cheng Feng rushed over with a grave expression. Boss, I just received news that they went to see Director Liang in private last night. I'm afraid Director Liang is also. Lu Tingxiao had 30% of the shares, and Yunshin already had 28%. Once he obtained Director Liang's shares, his shares would surpass Lu Tingxiao's. Now, the people's hearts were already unstable. If they continued to buy Lu Enterprises shares like crazy, the consequences would be unimaginable. Lu Jingli, who was standing to the side, remained silent. His expression was unusually solemn. Lu Tingxiao said in a low voice, Got it.
You can go now. Yes.
Cheng Feng replied and left with a worried expression. Chapter 1680. As soon as Cheng Feng left, Lu Jingli, who had a grave expression on his face, immediately smiled like a fox. Brother, we can finally close the net. Lu Tingxiao's eyes fell on the computer screen, and his slender fingers gently tapped on the cold and hard desktop. Unlike the gentleness he showed to Ningxi, his face was cold and murderous at the moment. Lu Jingli sneaked a glance at the photos on Lu Tingxiao's computer screen and shivered. Bro, don't be so creepy. The other party has been purposely sending you these photos to force you to lose your cool. But who is my brother? Those guys are too naive to use such a small trick to mess you up. Not only was it useless, but it also made his brother's combat effectiveness and ferocity go off the charts. He had seen it once 5 years ago, and this time it was even crazier. One step after another, one pit after another, until the other party completely jumped into it. He was shocked from the beginning to the end. Moreover, little Cece is head over heels in love with you. How could she have any room for anyone else? Hearing this, Lu Tingxiao regained some of the human's expression. Lu Jingli took the opportunity to say, "Then can I make my move now? Is that okay? Is it okay?" Lu Tingxiao glanced at him. "Wait for them to sign the contract with Liang Diyun." Oh, okay. Lu Jingli responded while secretly wiping the cold sweat on his forehead. Damn, that was too ruthless. He risked being overtaken by the shares to squeeze out the other party's last bit of flesh and blood. At this time, Lu Tingxiao's fingers that were lightly tapping on the table suddenly stopped, and he slightly raised his head. Time's up. Lu Jingli looked at the time on his phone. A moment later, in a secret industry under the Lu Enterprises, on the top of a green slope, Lu Jingli held a golf club in his hand and swung it out. Then he cheered. "Oh my, I'm so lucky today. A hole in one." As soon as he finished speaking, he saw a tall, middle-aged man in casual clothes walking straight in their direction. Although the man was wearing casual clothes, his straight back and vigorous steps were obviously different from ordinary people. Zhuang Liaoyuan stopped in front of the two of them and asked directly, "Where are the items?" Lu Tingxiao handed over a thumb-sized chip. "It's all in here. It contains all the information on their underground arms trade." They were surrounded by a huge golf course, and there were only the three of them in sight, so they didn't have to worry about being eavesdropped. "Are you sure the source is reliable?" Zhuang Liaoyuan took the things with a serious expression. "I'm sure," Lu Tingxiao replied. Zhuang Liaoyuan hesitated for a moment, but finally said, "All right, I will help you hand it over, but what the black cat will do, whether it will believe this information or not, is not within the scope of my authority, and I will not interfere." Lu Tingxiao, thank you. In fact, the fact that Zhuang Liaoyuan was willing to help him submit it was already a guarantee. Zhuang Liaoyuan put away the things, glanced at the man, and changed the topic. "I heard that you've been on a blind date recently? I've already told Xiaoxi about the delaying plan," Lu Tingxiao said frankly. Zhuang Liaoyuan snorted. "Don't think the Zhuang family is dead. The reason why I don't intervene in this matter is that I don't want Xiaoxi to be with you." Chapter 1681. Zhuang Liaoyuan didn't hide his real intention. Although he was not satisfied with Lu Tingxiao, Xiaoxi liked him and was loyal to him. Now he was just an acquaintance to her, so it was not convenient for him to intervene. Seeing that the Lu family had made Cece suffer so much, although he couldn't stand it, he still hoped that this matter could make Cece think it through and leave this brat, so that he could find a better man for her. As for this time, he helped this brat because it was a matter of great importance. Since he knew about it, he couldn't ignore it. How could Lu Tingxiao not know what Zhuang Liaoyuan was thinking? He said unhurriedly, "Then I may disappoint you. When Xiaoxi and I get married, I hope that Major General Zhuang will come and support us." He sounded as if he and Ningxi would definitely be together. Zhuang Liaoyuan was speechless. He was so angry that he left with a dark face. After Zhuang Liaoyuan left, Lu Jingli clicked his tongue. "Really? Why does Major General Zhuang not forget to poach your girl? You and little Cece's baby is already so big. Is it something that he can poach? Pull out the radish and bring out the mud." Well, this metaphor seems to be a bit inappropriate. Anyway, this is what I mean. The next night. In the end, Yan Rui was urged by Lu Chongshan to go to the Guan family.
Yeah.
"Your Aunt Lu is here. Come out. Don't stay in the room. This girl has been staying in the room all day recently. I don't know what she is busy with," Mrs. Guan said as she led Yan Rui to the door of Guan Xiao's room.
Aunt Lu.
Guan Xiao heard her mother's voice and hurriedly stood up and closed the book in her hand. However, Yan Rui had already seen the content of the book. It seemed to be a book about children's psychology. She glanced around Guanxiao's room and found that almost all the books scattered around were about children's education. Yan Rui picked up a book casually. Xiao, these books are? Guanxiao was a little embarrassed. Aunt Lu, it's nothing. Didn't I say I was taking this course? I was just reading. Reading? How many days have you been staying in the room?
I thought you were doing something.
So this is what you were looking at? Mother Guan said angrily. Guanxiao had a guilty look on her face. It's because I'm not good at academics and caused a misunderstanding last time.
I'm really sorry.
Yan Rui was stunned when she heard that. She looked a little moved. Child, it's been so long, and you still remember it. Auntie said it's not your fault. You didn't understand Xiao Bao's situation before. At this point, Yan Rui grabbed Guanxiao's hand and said, just reading books isn't enough. You need to spend more time with him. Once you spend more time with him, you'll naturally understand him. Don't you think so? Guanxiao and Mrs. Guan looked at each other, clearly understanding what Yan Rui was implying. Yan Rui sighed. Xiao Bao is the only precious grandson in the Lu family. He hasn't had a mother by his side to take care of him since he was young, so it's inevitable that he's a little nervous. I hope Xiao can bear with him. Auntie Lu, what are you talking about? I quite like Xiao Bao. That child is really very likable, Guanxiao said sincerely. Yan Rui revealed a gratified expression. Sigh, it's rare that you're on our Tingxiao's side at a time like this. You also know that a lot of things have happened to the Lu family recently. But with Tingxiao's ability, he'll definitely be able to resolve it. It's just a matter of time. Chapter 1682. Of course. I trust Tingxiao, Guanxiao said immediately. Yan Rui nodded in satisfaction. She thought for a moment and said, but I'm still feeling uneasy, so I'm going to pray for blessings at Fahua Temple with Uncle Lu and Xiao Bao this weekend. I wonder if you have the time, Xiao? If you do, why don't you come along? She was trying to create an opportunity for her to spend more time with Xiao Bao. At the same time, she was going to pray with the two elders and the little prince, which was a form of recognition. Guanxiao and Mrs. Guan looked at each other and nodded. Auntie Lu, I'm free. I don't have to go to the office this weekend. That's great. Yan Rui smiled and chatted with Guanxiao for a long time. Guan Rui came back not long after Yan Rui left.
Dad.
You're back. Mrs. Guan walked over to take Guan Rui's jacket. I heard that Auntie Lu came today? Guan Rui asked his daughter. Guanxiao nodded. Yeah, she came at night. She just left. What did she say? Mrs. Guan poured a cup of tea for her husband, looking displeased. What else could she say? She's here to offer an olive branch. How could she not be anxious when the Lu family is in such a state? Old Guan, are you sure it's okay for us to side with Lu Tingxiao now? I heard that the illegitimate son has more shares than Lu Tingxiao.
Don't be naive.
The shares are not absolute. Lu Tingxiao's biggest advantage is his prestige in Lu Enterprises. Moreover, besides what we see on the surface, Lu Tingxiao has many forces under the water that we can't see,
Guan Rui said.
That's right, Mom. Besides, Lu Tingxiao is the legitimate eldest son. That man is just an illegitimate son, Guanxiao said. So, you're saying that Lu Tingxiao will definitely win? Mrs. Guan asked. Guan Rui glanced at her. How is that possible? That illegitimate son can achieve so much in just a few months. How can he be an ordinary person? His background is even more terrifying than Lu Tingxiao's, but his foundation is unstable. He'll definitely be a formidable opponent in the future. It's still unknown if Lu Tingxiao can beat him. Mrs. Guan panicked. Then why are you still letting Xiao marry him? What if? Hearing this, Guanxiao also frowned. Guan Rui said unhurriedly, When did I ask Xiao to marry him? What's the rush? Let's wait and see for now. Mrs. Guan was stunned for a moment before she regained her composure. I understand. Then can Yan Rui invite Xiao to the Fahua Temple to pray this weekend? Mrs. Guan asked again. Go, why not? It's not a big deal, you can go. Guan Rui's intentions were clear. He wanted to keep the Lu family in suspense and act according to the circumstances. After all, they had never promised anything. Guan Xiao's eyes flickered, but she didn't say anything in the end and listened to her father's arrangement. The next day, which was the 5th day that Lu Tingxiao and Lu Chongshan had agreed to meet, the situation had reached its climax. Seeing that Lu Tingxiao was being forced back step by step, the originally stable members of the Grand Bachelor's Party could no longer sit still. It was obvious that the illegitimate son was a vicious and merciless person. If he didn't change his stance now, when he took over, all of them who were following Lu Tingxiao would definitely be targeted. Chapter 1683. However, Lu Tingxiao had accumulated his power for a long time. They weren't Lu Chongming, who had been exiled, and they weren't Song Lin, who was all alone. They also didn't have the guts like Qi Kaiqing and Liang Diyun to change sides at this time. The fate of those traitors 5 years ago was still fresh in their minds, and they were now in deep trouble. Alas, illegitimate children were indeed the culprits of the aristocratic families. Even the Lu family could not escape from it. Time passed in the blink of an eye. It was the 6th day. It was the weekend. Yan Rui had decided to go to the temple with her family the day before yesterday. She had wanted to ask Ting Xiao and Jingli to go with her, but they were so busy with the company's situation that they had no time to do it. As the elders, they could only help. Xiaobao had recovered these days. Lu Chongshan heard that she had been to the Guan family, and Guan Xiao had said that she would come with them this weekend, so he felt much better. The sun was shining brightly outside the window. It was a good day for going out. Yan Rui got up early in the morning and specially asked the kitchen to prepare vegetarian dishes for charity. Guan Xiao also arrived early. She was sitting on the sofa and talking to Xiaobao. Xiaobao did not deliberately make things difficult for her, but his attitude was obviously distant. Yan Rui walked out of the kitchen and saw Xiaobao looking out the door. She asked suspiciously, "Xiaobao, what are you looking at?" "Nothing." Xiaobao looked away. After everything was ready, Yan Rui, Lu Chongshan, Guan Xiao, and Xiaobao went out together. After going out, Xiaobao pursed his thin lips and looked into the distance. He did not look too good. Yan Rui and Lu Chongshan asked him questions, but he was absent-minded. When he was about to get into the car, there was a sudden squeaking sound of brakes. A white sports car drifted and stopped outside the old house. Soon, a girl quickly opened the door and got out of the car. Then she ran to Xiaobao anxiously and held him in her arms. "Xiaobao." Mummy, Xiaobao's face, which had been tense all morning, burst into a big smile when he saw Ningxi. Ningxi looked him up and down carefully, and a trace of suspicion flashed across her face. "Baby, where does it hurt? Where do you feel uncomfortable?" Xiaobao blinked his eyes guiltily, lowered his head, and said in a low voice, "Mom, I'm sorry. Xiaobao lied to you. Xiaobao is fine. It doesn't hurt anywhere, nor is there any discomfort." "That's good. That's good." Ningxi's first reaction was to heave a sigh of relief. Then, she had the extra energy to look at the 3 people behind Xiaobao. With just one glance, Ningxi roughly knew why Xiaobao had lured her here. Xiaobao held Ningxi's hand tightly and walked up to Lu Chongshan and Yan Rui. He looked at Lu Chongshan and said, "Grandpa, you promised. You taught me that a man should keep his word." When Lu Chongshan saw that Ningxi actually came to disturb him at this time, he was originally angry, but after hearing Xiaobao's words, he was immediately speechless. He did promise Tingxiao that he would give Ningxi a chance, but how did Xiaobao find out? That brat. He only knew how to use Xiaobao to deal with him. Lu Chongshan furrowed his brows. Looking at his precious grandson's determined expression, he knew that if he were to take a hard stance, Xiaobao would definitely be hurt, and today's matter would be completely ruined. Moreover, wasting time to pray was not a good omen. Chapter 1684. Guan Xiao clenched her fists when she saw how protective Xiaobao was towards Ningxi and even secretly called Ningxi over. She took a deep breath and said generously, Uncle Lu, Auntie Lu, let Ningxi go with us. It doesn't matter if there's one more person. She spoke as if she was the owner. Lu Chongshan gave Ningxi a warning look. Then let's go together. Then he looked at Xiao Bao lovingly. Xiao Bao, is this okay? Grandpa will keep his promise. Xiao Bao nodded, satisfied. Then he looked at Ningxi nervously. Mom, I'm sorry. Xiao Bao knows he's wrong. Can Mom come with us? Ningxi didn't care about Lu Chongshan, Yan Rui, or Guanxiao's attitude. She only cared about Xiao Bao. Ningxi looked at the little guy helplessly. How could she refuse any request of her baby? Okay, Mom will go with us. But don't do this next time. Do you know how worried I was? Got it, Mom. Mom is the best. Xiao Bao is getting better at acting coquettishly, and Ningxi couldn't do anything to him. Ningxi called herself Mom because she was used to it. But in Guanxiao's ears, it was no less than a provocation, and her eyes turned colder. After a short while, the five of them got into the car and drove towards Fahua Temple. The Lincoln Stretch limousine was very spacious. Xiao Bao, Ningxi, and Lu Chongshan sat on one side, while Guanxiao and Yan Rui sat opposite. Ningxi didn't have time to dress up because she had come in a hurry. While she was worrying, Xiao Bao had already taken out a mask, sunglasses, and even a wig from his little backpack. Ningxi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Little rascal, you've been planning this for a long time. This is the inconvenience of being a star. It's too troublesome to go out.
Guanxiao said.
She seemed to be sighing, but she was just reminding Ningxi of her profession and identity. As expected, as soon as he finished speaking, Lu Chongshan frowned. Yes, it's too troublesome. Xiao Bao nodded sullenly. Guanxiao was delighted to hear that. The next second, she saw Xiao Bao sticking to Ningxi's arms, raising his little head and muttering unhappily, I hate it when so many people like Mommy. Mummy belongs to me alone. After saying that, the little fellow secretly winked at his mother, saying, Mom, don't worry. Dad is not here. I will protect Mom on his behalf. Seeing Xiao Bao's protective look, Ningxi felt touched and amused. She tapped his nose and said, So what? No matter how many people like Mommy, Mommy only likes you. Xiao Bao was soothed, and his smile was even more dazzling than the sunlight outside the car window. Lu Chongshan snorted coldly in his heart. Flowery words. Even though the scene before him was what he wanted to see the most, he hoped that Xiao Bao would have someone to take care of him, chat with him, and make him happy, but why did it have to be this scheming woman? Along the way, they finally arrived at the Fahua Temple. The monastery's courtyard was deep and filled with old trees. It was very quiet, and the moment one stepped in, it made one feel as if their entire heart had calmed down. The last time she was here, it was Shiqing who wanted to become a monk, so she came to persuade him. Oh, at that time, Master Xianjing even did a divination for her. In the end, he gave her a peach blossom, hinting that she would have a peach blossom tribulation. Chapter 1685. The five of them bought incense sticks outside, and came to the hall to pray one by one. Ningxi carefully lit the incense for Xiao Bao and taught him how to kneel. Xiao Bao lit a stick of incense, and then knelt on the futon very devoutly. He closed his eyes and made a wish seriously. Ningxi looked at Xiao Bao's devout look and asked with a smile, Xiao Bao, what did you wish for? It was rare that the little guy didn't answer Ningxi. He said seriously, You can't say it. It won't work if you say it. Okay. Ningxi chuckled. But I'm really curious. What is Xiao Bao's wish? Xiao Bao pursed his lips, looked up at his mother, and then at the Buddha statue in front of him. He silently repeated his wish in his heart. I hope that my mother can be my mother forever. Buddha, forgive me for being greedy. If possible, I have another wish. I also hope that if I was born by my mother, that would be great. Buddha, please bless our Lu family to get through this great calamity. Yan Rui prayed anxiously and then murmured, I hope Tingxiao can get married soon. Ningxi also knelt, but then she got up and didn't pray for anything. She believed in Lu Tingxiao and there was nothing to pray for. Lu Chongshan donated a golden Buddha statue. The little monk put his palms together gratefully and said, Amit Ba. Benefactor, you are so kind. Thank you, Benefactor Lu, for your donation. Lu Chongshan put his palms together and replied, Amit Ba. Then he asked, Is Master Xianjing in the temple today? Is he free? I have something to trouble you with today. The little monk said, Master is in seclusion and can't see you. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I understand. Thank you. Lu Chongshan looked regretful. He wanted to ask Master Xianjing if there was any solution to the Lu family's problem. Sigh. He had actually reached the point of asking Buddha for help. Although they didn't see Master Xianjing, they didn't leave immediately. In order to show their sincerity, they kept chanting and copying scriptures in the temple. They didn't leave the temple until the sun set. The black car drove quietly. After being out for a whole day, Little Bao yawned and fell asleep in Ningxi's arms. Ningxi was infected by Little Bao's sleepiness and also felt a little drowsy. As for the other three, they all had different thoughts, but they were obviously not sleepy at all. Ningxi, let me carry Xiaobao. Yan Rui took Xiaobao from Ningxi's hands. Ningxi reluctantly let go. After leaving her mother's embrace, the little bun frowned uneasily and was carried away by Yan Rui. Xiao, let's have dinner at home tonight. Yan Rui invited Guanxiao intimately. Ningxi suddenly appeared today and was so close to Xiaobao. She was inevitably worried that Guanxiao would feel uncomfortable. Let's eat at home. Let's get together as a family today. Lu Chongshan immediately decided. Intentionally or unintentionally, the two directly ignored Ningxi's existence, not mentioning her at all. Lu Chongshan's face darkened. He did not believe that this woman would still be thick-skinned enough to use Xiaobao as an excuse to stay after what he had said at this moment. Ningxi, who was resting with her eyes closed, suddenly opened her eyes and a cold light flashed in her eyes. Be careful. Almost at the instant she said that, accompanied by a bone-chilling bang, their car was violently hit. Chapter 1686. Yan Rui and Guanxiao screamed in the car. The first thing Ningxi did was check on Xiaobao. However, the moment she saw him, she was devastated. The car door had been opened at some point in time, and a black figure flashed past at an extremely fast speed. He snatched the sleeping Xiaobao away from the panicking Yan Rui. Ningxi's eyes were red. She rushed past Yan Rui at the fastest speed in her life, but she only touched the corner of Xiaobao's clothes. Oh my God! Xiaobao! Yan Rui finally came to her senses and screamed on the verge of collapse. Ningxi had already caught up with the man and fought with him. As soon as they started fighting, Ningxi's heart sank. That was a professional mercenary, definitely not an ordinary person. Moreover, that man was holding Xiaobao in his arms. Ningxi was afraid of hurting him, so she fell into a stalemate. Too many things had happened during this period of time, and Ningxi had been feeling uneasy, so she had been desperately practicing martial arts. In addition, it was related to Xiaobao, so her martial arts suddenly soared to the extreme. Finally, she was about to get Xiaobao back from that man. However, at this moment, another person suddenly attacked her from the side, and every move was overbearing and fierce. Aiming at her vital point, the opponent was a man, so he had a natural advantage in strength. A flying kick broke through the air, wrapped with extremely terrifying force. If this kick landed on the temple, it would be a small matter to faint, and it was possible to directly kick the person to death. Seeing this scene, Yan Rui's body swayed, and she subconsciously let out a cry. At the moment when the killer move came, Ningxi combined her hands and grabbed the man's ankle, cushioning the man's attack. Then her hands twisted the man's leg like a sharp knife, turning it 360 degrees until it was twisted and pressed on the ground, and then she kicked the man's dantian. Ouch! The man let out a muffled groan, and then rolled on the ground in pain. Ningxi didn't entangle with him anymore, and instantly chased after another man. Fuck! The man holding Xiaobao cursed in a low voice, and his eyes were full of murderous intent, full of fierceness. Stop! If you dare to. However, before he could finish speaking, the other party had already closed in on him like a ghost. Following that, a piercing pain came from his elbow and kneecap at the same time, as though his bones were being crushed. The man immediately cried out in pain and knelt down with a thud. Ningxi seized the opportunity, grabbed Xiaobao, and quickly ran in the direction of the car behind her. She was only a few steps away and had just run to the front of the car, but the two mercenaries behind her had already caught up. One of them grabbed Ningxi's shoulder, like an eagle's claw, stopping her from moving forward. She couldn't move, and Xiaobao was about to be taken away. At this moment, Guanxiao was the closest to her and was standing next to the driver's seat. So Ningxi decisively stuffed Xiaobao into Guanxiao's hand and shouted, "Drive. Let's go." After saying that, he turned around and stopped the two men, hoping to stall for time. As long as they got into the car, they would be safe. The security facilities of this car were very complete. If the driver hadn't betrayed them and opened the door, they wouldn't have been able to take Xiaobao away so easily. Ningxi was thinking about this, and after seeing Guanxiao from the corner of her eye, her pupils suddenly contracted. Guanxiao seemed to be scared out of her wits, but her face was full of panic. After hearing her urging, she took Xiaobao and stood there motionless, missing the best time to escape. Chapter 1687. In just a few seconds, one of the men had broken through her obstruction, rushed over with a grim face, and snatched Xiaobao from Guanxiao's hands. At the same time, a huge roar sounded not far away, rolling up the dust and sand. A helicopter hovered in the air and slowly landed. From the helicopter, 3 mercenaries wearing the same uniforms and special masks as these 2 men jumped down at an extremely fast speed, each with a weapon in their hands. Ningxi felt cold all over, and her heart fell to the bottom. It's over, seeing that Xiaobao was almost rescued, only to be snatched away again. Yanrui could no longer hold on. Her entire body was trembling, and her face was covered in sweat. She held onto Lu Chongshan's arm and barely managed to stand. All she knew was to repeatedly mutter, "Xiaobao, save Xiaobao." Lu Chongshan threw away the unresponsive walkie-talkie in his hand with a gloomy face and said to those people sternly, "Who are you? Put down the child, and you can ask for anything you want." One of them had the letter Kambe engraved on his mask, and it seemed that he was the leader. He glanced coldly at his 2 subordinates who had almost failed. He didn't even look at Lu Chongshan, only giving him a cold look. Then, he raised his hand and everyone boarded the plane. With the loud roar of the propeller, the helicopter slowly rose into the air. Seeing that Xiaobao was taken on the helicopter, Yanrui staggered to chase after them. "Xiaobao, Aunt Lu, be careful." Guanxiao hurriedly supported Yanrui, who was about to faint at any time. Seeing Xiaobao being taken away, Lu Chongshan's face turned pale. He covered his chest with his hand, feeling dizzy, and everything went black. "Baby, don't be afraid. Mom won't let you be alone." However, at this moment, Lu Chongshan seemed to vaguely hear Ningxi's mumbling. In the next second, the girl's body was like a fully drawn bow. The moment the door of the helicopter closed, she leaped up and jumped over. She used her fingers to grab the bottom of the door and forcefully flipped into the helicopter. After Ningxi got in, the helicopter shook violently, twisted and turned in the air, and then gradually flew away until it disappeared from sight. Yanrui fell to the ground with a pale face. Guanxiao stood aside anxiously, and Lu Chongshan was still staring blankly at the empty space above his head. "Master. Old madam. Are you guys okay?" A cry of alarm came from the side. Xingwu limped over, clutching his bleeding arm. "What's wrong with you guys? Where is he?" So many people followed him out. Where did they all go? "Do you know that Xiaobao has been kidnapped?" Yanrui found a way to vent and finally broke down and roared. No, this wasn't kidnapping, this was kidnapping right in front of them." What? "The young master has been kidnapped." Xingwu didn't expect the situation to be worse than he had imagined. His face paled, and he knelt down. "This subordinate deserves to die. The people we were protecting were all ambushed at the same time. The enemy seemed to know our route and the location of the people we were protecting in secret. Shut up, I don't want to hear your excuses. Lu Chongshan interrupted him. Ever since Xiaobao was kidnapped once, the Lu family security system had been upgraded. But now, Xiaobao had been kidnapped right under his nose. There was no one by his side, and the only person who could stop him was that woman. Chapter 1688. Tingxiao.
Chongshan, tell Tingxiao.
Hurry up and let him save Xiaobao. Yan Rui hurriedly urged. After a while, she added, and that girl. Yan Rui closed her eyes and said in a trembling voice, Fortunately, Xiaobao is not alone this time. With that girl, at least Xiaobao won't be so scared. I can't imagine what would have happened if Xiaobao had been alone. Yan Rui's tears rolled down her cheeks. Thinking that they had made Xiaobao suffer like this again, and what kind of psychological trauma Xiaobao would suffer if Ningxi didn't follow them, she wanted to kill herself. It's me. It's all my fault. I didn't protect Xiaobao well. Why didn't I hold Xiaobao tightly? Why did I take Xiaobao from Ningxi? If Ningxi had been the one holding Xiaobao, Yan Rui was drowning in self-blame. Lu Chongshan did not say anything, but his mood was no better than Yan Rui's. If he was not in a hurry to settle the matter with the Guan clan, he would not have come to Fahua Temple today, nor would he have given the other party an opportunity to take advantage of him. Guan Xiao helped Yan Rui up carefully. Auntie Lu, don't blame yourself anymore. How could it be your fault in that situation? It's my fault for not being able to react in time and driving Xiaobao away in time. Master, Madam, we can't stay here for long. Let's go back and think about it. Every second we delay now will put the young master in more danger. Xingwu hurriedly reminded. Go back. Hurry. On the way, Lu Chongshan couldn't get through to Lu Tingxiao's phone, so he asked Xingwu to drive him to the company. When they got out of the car in the underground parking lot, they bumped into Cheng Feng, Lu Tingxiao's assistant. Cheng Feng pushed the door open and got out of the car in a hurry. He was talking on the phone with a smile on his face. He looked very excited. Cheng Feng. Lu Chongshan stopped him immediately. Cheng Feng hung up and looked at Lu Chongshan, Yan Rui, and Guan Xiao in surprise. Chairman? Madam? It's so late. Why are you here? Where's Tingxiao? Why didn't he answer the phone? Yan Rui asked. Boss Lu must be busy right now. Cheng Feng looked at Lu Chongshan excitedly and reported, Chairman, Elon Ventures is doomed this time. What did you say? Lu Chongshan was startled. There's a problem with a big order that Elon Ventures is running right now. All the goods don't meet the delivery requirements, so they have to pay a huge penalty. However, the other party has used all their money to buy Lu Enterprises shares, so they don't have that much liquidity right now. If they want to protect Elon, they have to sell off their shares in the Lu Group. You have to know that these shares were bought at double the price. Now that they are short of money, if they sell them off at a low price, even if they protect Elon Ventures, they will definitely suffer heavy losses. Most importantly, this will remove the threat to our Lu Group. And Chairman, look at these stocks. Cheng Feng quickly clicked on a few of Elon Venture Capital's main investment stocks on his iPad. They were initially bullish stocks that were rising rapidly, but now they were all falling rapidly. Chapter 1689. Cheng Feng looked at the movements of those stocks and continued to explain to Lu Chongshan, Boss actually formed a special team half a year ago, and all of them are top traders from Wall Street. Right now, Boss is personally leading this team to trade. If there are no accidents, it will only take one night for Elon to hit the daily limit tomorrow morning. When that time comes, everyone will dump Elon in large quantities. Cheng Feng continued to talk about how Lu Tingxiao laid out the net step by step and prepared for a rainy day with a face full of admiration. Lu Chongshan looked at the few stocks on the iPad and was stunned. He did not say a word for a long time. 7 days, the time that Tingxiao promised him was 7 days, and now it was the night of the 6th day. That child, he really did it. No wonder Xiaobao was suddenly kidnapped. So it was because he was cornered. "Chairman, what's wrong?" And Madam Chung Fong finally noticed that there was something wrong with their expressions. "Today, Uncle Lu, Auntie Lu, and I brought Xiao Bao to the temple to pray. We didn't expect to meet a group of kidnappers on the way and kidnapped Xiao Bao,"
Guan Ziyao explained.
At the same time, the light in her eyes disappeared. She knew that the man she fancied wasn't that weak. No wonder Xiao Bao was kidnapped. It was most likely done by the illegitimate son's people. Those people weren't kind and would do anything if they were forced into a corner. And this time, it wasn't just Xiao Bao. That woman also delivered herself to him. Everything that she had been worried about had actually been resolved tonight. What did you say? Xiao Bao. Xiao Bao was kidnapped. How is that possible? Chung Fong was so shocked that his expression changed. What's impossible? Xiao Bao was kidnapped right in front of us. Don't waste any more time. Hurry and inform Ting Xiao. Yan Rui urged. When Chung Fong heard this, he was about to agree, but he seemed to have thought of something and hesitated. Before Chung Fong could speak, Lu Chongshan stopped him.
Wait.
We can't tell Ting Xiao now. What did you say? Yan Rui looked at her husband in disbelief. Why can't we tell Ting Xiao? It's already at this time. Lu Chongshan said in a deep voice. Elon Ventures must be fighting back by now. Tonight's stock market trading is extremely important, and Ting Xiao must not be affected in any way. Otherwise, if he makes the slightest mistake, all his efforts will go to waste. Why do you think the other party would suddenly go to such lengths to kidnap Xiao Bao? It's to disturb Ting Xiao's mind. Yan Rui's lips trembled as she stared at the man in front of her, as though she didn't know him at all. Lu Chongshan, do you know what you're saying? The one who was kidnapped was Xiao Bao. He's your grandson. You keep saying that you sacrificed so much for the greater good of the Lu clan and suffered so much, and now you're going to sacrifice Xiao Bao's life as well? Do you still have a heart? Lu Chongshan frowned. Rui, that's not what I meant. When did I say that I wanted to sacrifice Lil Bao's life? I've already informed everyone to search for traces of that group of people. Moreover, those people will definitely come to us and ask for our lives. At that time Enough.
Lu Chongshan.
You don't have to give me any more lectures. I only know that in your eyes, the Lu clan is more important than Xiao Bao's life. Yan Rui roared uncontrollably. Chapter 1690. Guan Ziyao said gently, Auntie Lu, calm down.
What Uncle Lu said makes sense.
If we tell Ting Xiao now, we'll be falling into their trap. What if they get what they want and don't let Xiao Bao go? You shut up too. Yan Rui's heart was filled with thoughts of Xiao Bao being in danger. She scolded her mercilessly. Guan Ziyao had never been scolded by Yan Rui like this before. Her face turned pale, and she kept quiet. Lu Chongshan, you're not going to tell me?
Fine.
I'll go find Ting Xiao myself. Yan Rui pushed the person beside her away and quickly walked towards the elevator. Just as she reached the elevator, Yan Rui's body swayed, and she fainted without any warning and fell to the ground. She had suffered too much today. Being able to hold on until now was already her limit. At this moment, she finally couldn't hold on any longer. Rui. Auntie Lu. Madam. The three of them rushed over to help her up. Chairman, Chung Fong was panicking. Call the doctor immediately. Lu Chongshan said anxiously. Then, should we tell the boss about the young master? Chung Fong asked. Lu Chongshan's hands trembled nervously. He closed his eyes and after a long time, he finally said, Don't tell Ting Xiao yet, but after 12 tonight, if Xiao Bao still can't be saved. Lu Chongshan sighed and said, No matter what the situation is here, you must tell Ting Xiao immediately. Chung Fong nodded. Yes, I understand. Lu Chongshan looked at the unconscious Yan Rui as he listened to her complaints. His heart was aching. He had watched Xiao Bao grow up. He could still remember the excitement he felt when he first saw the little fellow. He could still remember the soft touch when he held the little fellow in his arms. Then, he watched him grow up day by day, becoming smarter and cuter. Now he was even more obedient, sensible and filial. That was his grandson, his life. How could he not be nervous? How could he not be heartbroken? He would rather be the one being kidnapped right now. However, this concerned the survival of the entire Liu family. Everything happened because of him. He couldn't ignore everything. Waiting until 12 tonight was the only way he could come up with, not long ago. Elon Ventures building. In the dark office, the fluorescent light from the computer screen shone on the man's gloomy face and cold white hair. He was looking at a series of photos, all of which were pictures of Ning Shi and Lu Tingxiao getting along warmly. There were also photos of the family of 3, with little Bun. They were all taken, but they were extremely realistic. He could feel the love in the girl's eyes through the photos. The email page was opened, and it showed that the sender was not anonymous, but directly stated, Lu Jingli. Without a doubt, this was in line with Lu Jingli's personality. His brother was provoked by those photos every day, so he naturally wanted to give him a taste of his own medicine. Who's afraid of who? Boss, no. Bad news. Suddenly, someone pushed open the door and rushed in. What did you call me? The man looked up at her. President. Mr. President. Not good. There's a problem with our deal with Jiaxing Bank, and now we need to pay $3 billion USD. Just pay for it. But there's no more money. Chapter 1691. Where's the money? The man asked nonchalantly. All of it was used to buy the shares of the 6 companies. Not a single cent was left. You were the one who told us not to worry about it, and to use it all for buying. The man replied in horror. The man raised an eyebrow. Did I say that? You did. The man was about to cry from being tortured by his boss. Just then, the office door was pushed open again. Xiaoyi walked in with a cold expression and continued the man's words. And all the underground trading channels have been exposed. This meant that all their sources of income had been cut off. When the Black Dragon had been rescued in time, they had thought that everything would be fine. They hadn't expected that these channels would still be exposed, and the Black Cat would know about it. What exactly had gone wrong? However, there was no time to think about this now. Damn it, this Lu Tingxiao was indeed not simple. Fortunately, he was prepared. Tang Yi, who was behind him, continued, Now Lu Tingxiao has prepared a trading team, and they are attacking our stock market. Yun Shan's eyes, which had always been lazy and uninterested in anything, suddenly shone with an unprecedented light. It was as if there was finally something that interested him and made him take it seriously. Very well, let's play with him. The man moved his fingers slightly, and a complicated stock market chart suddenly appeared on the computer screen. I want to see if the legend of Wall Street is as invincible as he used to be. It would be interesting to defeat Lu Tingxiao in what he was most proud of and best at. Xiao Yi looked at Yunshen's expression and knew that this guy was finally taking it seriously. He was both relieved and worried. He knew that Yunshen was actually the same as Lu Tingxiao. They both had amazing talent and attainments in the stock market. After returning to China, they were able to expand Elon Ventures to this extent in such a short period of time. Money alone was not enough. He really couldn't tell who would win this time. However, he would not allow any possibility of failure. This time, he had to win. And he would definitely win. At all costs. Yun Shan waved everyone away and plunged into the sea of data. Tang Yi quickly gathered the company's team and began to fight against the 6 companies. Xiao Yi left and gave a warning look to the man beside him. Don't let Ah Shin know what happened tonight. That child's brain was sometimes too slow, and he was too conceited. Those who did great things did not bother with trifles. So, what if he used unscrupulous means? There was no need to talk about morality with someone like Lu Chongshan. Yes, the subordinate answered. Tonight was destined to be a sleepless night. Yan Rui was still unconscious. Lu Chongshan had mobilized all the secret forces of the 6 families to search for Xiao Bao's whereabouts. At the same time, all he could do was wait for the other party to contact him. Once the other party contacted him, they would definitely make excessive demands. However, as long as the other party contacted him, he would be able to locate them and rescue Xiaobao. However, time passed bit by bit, and the night grew darker and darker. So many people had been dispatched, but there was still no news from Xiaobao. The helicopter seemed to have vanished into thin air, leaving no trace behind. He was not even sure if the other party was still in the country, and the other party had not contacted him either. The originally calm Lu Chongshan's expression finally changed. Chapter 1692. In a villa on the outskirts of the capital. Uncle Qiao. There's been no movement from Lu Corporation. It seems that Lu Chongshan hasn't told Lu Tingxiao about this, and has sent someone to look for us in private. Should we contact Lu Chongshan now?
Feng Jin asked.
Why should we contact Lu Chongshan? Qiao Yi asked unhurriedly. Feng Jin paused and said, Of course it's to. You think I want to use that child to threaten Lu Chongshan? Qiao Yi asked with a half-smile. Feng Jin's face was full of doubt. Isn't it? Then what do you intend to do? Qiao Yi sat on the wide mahogany chair and looked coldly at the dark night sky outside the window. Deep in his eyes, there seemed to be an ugly and ferocious beast wriggling its body as it tried to break free. Then, he slowly answered Feng Jin's question, Kill that child. As soon as he said this, Feng Jin's pupils shrank and his face was full of fear. What? The man laughed coldly.
Why?
Are you afraid? Feng Jin lowered his head to hide the shock in his eyes. No, it's just that. What's there to be afraid of? After tonight, everything will be ours. Lu Chongshan is just a stray dog. Feng Jin frowned. Even if that was the case, there was no need to kill the child, right? There could be a safer way. What if they killed the child and caused Lu Corporation to retaliate? Any other questions? Qiao Yi's gaze was like a ghost's as he looked at the man in front of him. Feng Jin shivered and said, No, I'll do it right away. Then, as if he had thought of something, he asked, Then what about Tang Shi? The only variable in this mission was that they had accidentally brought Tang Shi back. At that time, she had almost ruined everything. Could it be that Uncle Qiao wanted Tang Shi as well? At this thought, Feng Jin's hand, which had been maimed by Yun Shun's shot, twitched reflexively. Qiao Yi sighed and said in a seemingly helpless tone, Keep her. It's rare for Ashin to have something she likes. Let her see with her own eyes how the child dies. She knew what would happen to traitors. Feng Jin's voice trembled slightly.
Yes.
After Feng Jin left, Qiao Yi gently caressed the necklace hanging around his neck. He unlocked the lock and opened the small photo inside. His gaze was so gentle, but it was as terrifying as a ghost's. Ha! Lu Chongshan. I've let you live so happily for so many years. It's time to come to an end. I'll let you have a taste of what it feels like to lose a loved one.
Ha!
Ha ha ha. His maniacal laughter resounded in the dead silence of the night, sending chills down one's spine. Ningxi and Xiaobao were blindfolded and brought to a small room of 20 square meters. There were no windows in the room, only an iron door. There were 2 people guarding the door, and the room was empty. Apart from her and Xiaobao, there was not even a strand of extra hair. It was impossible to tell where they were. Ever since she and Xiaobao were locked up, no one had paid any attention to them. Time ticked by, and in the blink of an eye, nearly 2 hours had passed. Ningxi's expression also became more and more solemn as time passed. Xiaobao, are you scared? Ningxi hugged the little fellow tightly in her arms. Xiaobao was held in his mother's warm embrace. His little head shook, but there was no sign of panic on his face. As long as I'm with Mommy. Ningxi's gaze trembled slightly. She gently kissed the little fellow's forehead, hiding the gloomy look in her eyes.
Good boy.
Chapter 1693. Ningxi was highly nervous, paying close attention to every movement outside. However, the two gatekeepers were like statues. They were so quiet that even their breathing could not be heard. No one else had been here. In the face of her probing inquiry and deliberate conversation, they did not respond. Another half an hour later, Ningxi's face had completely darkened. Someone who had the ability to kidnap Xiaobao from the Lu family and mobilize an entire A-level mercenary group to kidnap a child must be from the Lu family. And there was only one reason why they kidnapped Xiaobao. Lu Tingxiao had begun to fight back, and they might not be able to hold on any longer, so they planned to use Xiaobao to threaten the Lu family. She thought so at the beginning, so she wasn't particularly worried. As long as they had a request, they wouldn't do anything to Xiaobao. However, as time went by, she found that something was wrong. If they were really going to use Xiaobao to threaten the Lu family, they should have told Lu Chongshan their purpose as soon as they kidnapped Xiaobao. Even if they didn't tell them at the beginning, they should have contacted the Lu family after being kidnapped for so long. Otherwise, the longer they waited, the more disadvantageous it would be for them. Why didn't they contact the Lu family? Unless, thinking of a possibility, Ningxi subconsciously tightened her arms around Xiaobao. After a long time, finally, there was a sound of footsteps at the door. The leader, whose mask was engraved with the letter K, was saying something to the two gatekeepers. Ningxi keenly saw something similar to shock in the eyes of one of the gatekeepers. What did that cape say? Why did the gatekeeper react like that? They didn't seem to mind her being here, so they didn't speak in a low voice. So Ningxi vaguely heard words like, "This morning, this is an order from the higher-ups. Keep that woman." Ningxi thought about the meaning of these words, and her blood suddenly froze. What did he mean when he said, "Keep the woman"? Didn't they want to keep the child? The footsteps gradually faded away. The leader had left, and the room returned to its deathly stillness. Ningxi's body couldn't help trembling violently. "Mom." Feeling his mother's violent mood swings, Xiaobao looked up at her worriedly. Ningxi held Xiaobao tightly in her arms. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Mommy will never let anything happen to you." Ningxi used all her self-control to calm herself down. In the next second, her expression changed, and she slowly covered her lower abdomen, revealing a painful expression. "Mom." Xiaobao, who had been calm just now, saw Ningxi's pained expression. He turned to her anxiously and asked, "Mom, what's wrong with you?" Ningxi couldn't speak. Her whole body started to twitch, and she groaned in pain. "Mom." Hearing the movement inside, the guard on the right side of the door looked back and frowned slightly. Just as he was about to make a move, someone beside him stopped him. "What are you doing?" Don't do anything unnecessary," his companion warned. The guard hesitated for a moment, then stood back. However, as time went on, Ningxi's reaction became more and more serious. She rolled on the ground in pain and smashed her head against the wall until it bled profusely. Chapter 1694. Little Bun was so anxious that she screamed and hugged Ningxi, who was rolling on the ground. She cried so hard that she could barely breathe. "Mom," the guard finally couldn't stand it anymore. "I'll go in and have a look." Before his companion could speak, he said coldly, "That woman has been ordered to stay here. Are you going to take responsibility if anything happens to her?" His companion snorted and reminded him sarcastically, "That's Tang Shi. And don't forget, she's an actress." His companion added, "And she's a very good actress." Obviously, he knew Ningxi very well. Hearing this, the guard who was about to go in hesitantly stopped, but continued to look inside with the corner of his eyes. "Mom, please save my mom." The child cried heartbreakingly and threw himself at the iron gate, begging them to save his mother. Even the specially trained cold-blooded guards couldn't help but frown. At the same time, the woman lying on the floor twitched less and less frequently, and blood began to gush out of the corner of her mouth. Finally, she lay motionless. Finally, the faces of the two guards outside the door changed. One of them pulled the door open and rushed in, while the other guarded the door vigilantly with a gun in his hand. The guard who rushed in quickly walked up to Ningxi, kicked her with his foot, and then bent down to check her condition. At this moment, something unexpected happened. The man's leg was swept by a strong force, and he instantly fell to the ground with a thud. The next second, the woman whose forehead was covered with blood and the corner of her mouth was still bleeding looked as cold as ice. She covered the child's eyes with one hand and twisted the man's wrist that was holding the gun with the other. She aimed at the guard outside the door, pressed down on the man's finger, and pulled the trigger. With its puff, the bullet from the silencer entered the guard's forehead. The guard maintained the posture of holding the gun and was about to shoot at her when he fell to the ground with his eyes wide open. There was another pew sound of a bullet entering a body. Another guard's heart was also shot by her. All this happened in the blink of an eye, and there were only 2 bodies left in the room. Yes, she was Tang Shi, and she was an excellent actress. Even if they knew her background, so what? True acting was, no matter how well you knew, the moment she got into character, you would still forget that she was acting.
Mom.
Xiao Bao pushed his mother's hand away and looked coldly at the 2 corpses on the ground. There was not a trace of fear in his eyes. However, when he looked at his mother, he immediately threw himself at her with an aggrieved expression. Mom, you're fine. Mommy is fine. Mommy lied to them. I'm sorry for making them worry. Ningxi put the gun in the back of her trousers and quickly picked up Xiao Bao. She then found a rope from one of the guards and tied Xiao Bao firmly in front of her. Don't be afraid, baby. Mommy will take you away from here. Just as Ningxi finished this, a shrill alarm suddenly sounded in the empty room, and the 2 corpses glowed with a dazzling red light. Damn it! Ningxi's expression changed as she stared at the red light. He did not expect the 2 of them to have sensors on them. Once the person wearing the sensors died or their body's heart rate and blood pressure were abnormal, it would automatically connect to the system and send an alarm. Chapter 1695. At a villa in the suburbs of the capital. Uncle Qiao. Bad news. What's wrong? Qiao Yi, who had been interrupted from reminiscing about his old friend, looked up unhappily. It's Tang Shi. Tang Shi killed 2 guards and escaped with the child. Feng Jin reported, panting. Where is she? Qiao Yi frowned, looking displeased. It was such a simple mission, but they had failed time and time again. She's still within our control. She shouldn't be able to escape. Although Feng Jin said this, his tone was uncertain. This woman was too unpredictable. Under such tight security and with a child by her side, she had actually managed to kill 2 A-rank mercenaries and escape. Qiao Yi stopped stroking the necklace and stood up slowly. He straightened his sleeves and said, Let's go. You want to go, personally? Feng Jin was shocked. I'm not going? Who would dare touch that girl? The man's expression was so cold that it made one's soul shiver. Sure enough, Feng Jin's face turned pale when he heard this. What did Qiao Yi mean? The man shook his head regretfully and sighed. Sigh, that girl is quite talented. She's my teacher, but unfortunately, she chose the wrong path. Then she can't stay. Feng Jin looked at the crazy look in the man's eyes and broke out in cold sweat. At the Liu family mansion. Master, everyone has gone out to look for her, but there's still no news. No one has contacted us either. Liu Chongshan listened to his subordinate's report and looked at the dead silence on his cell phone and phone. He then looked at the clock on the wall that was slowly approaching midnight. His fingers trembled uncontrollably, and the ominous feeling in his heart grew stronger. Master, what do we do now? Do we continue to wait? Xingwu glanced at the clock on the wall, cold sweat dripping down his forehead. It would be midnight in less than 10 minutes. "How's the company?" Lu Chongshan asked. Xingwu replied, "Just now, Cheng Feng sent word that everything is going smoothly. The share price is falling closer and closer to the buyer's bottom line. If the buyer doesn't protect the shares, they won't be able to hold on. If they protect the shares, it will be a huge loss and they may not be able to hold on." Lu Chongshan's voice trembled as he said with great difficulty, "Wait, Xingwu, yes." Time ticked by, 1 second after another. It was only a few minutes, but it felt like centuries. Ding-ling-ling. The default ringtone of the cell phone rang like a clap of thunder, exploding in the dead silence of the living room. Lu Chongshan's phone rang, and an unfamiliar number popped up on the screen. The other party had requested a video call. "They're here." Xingwu's eyes widened. "It's finally here." He knew that the other party would contact him. Lu Chongshan calmed himself down and accepted the call. The next second, the phone screen flashed and a middle-aged man's face appeared. The man was wearing a navy blue tang suit, and he seemed to be sitting on a high platform. The high light on the platform shone down, revealing an abandoned city. The strong light illuminated every corner of the ruins, leaving no place to hide. Yun-yi. Lu Chongshan stared at the middle-aged man's face with a dark expression. The man lowered his head and chuckled. "Haha, so Chairman Lu still remembers me? I thought you were forgetful. Yun-yi, it's not too late for you to stop now. You know what happened back then," Lu Chongshan said in a low voice. The man interrupted him and smiled sympathetically. "Chairman Lu, there's no need to mention what happened back then, and there's no need to play tricks on me. I don't plan on playing meaningless games with you at this point." The man smiled slyly. "Haha, tonight, I want to invite Chairman Lu to watch a good show." Chapter 1696. Tonight, I want to invite Chairman Lu to watch a good show. Looking at the man's cold, bloodthirsty, and vengeful eyes, as well as his words, all of Lu Chongshan's calmness and reason disappeared at this moment. He almost broke his voice and roared at Xingwu, "Inform Tingxiao. Inform Tingxiao immediately." "Master, shut up. Hurry." Seeing this, the middle-aged man on the other end of the video happily raised the corner of his mouth. "What a pity it's too late." The moment the middle-aged man's voice fell, the camera on the mobile phone switched to the abandoned ruins under the high platform and then gradually zoomed in. The image on the camera was very clear. Even at night, the situation below could be clearly seen. Finally, a familiar figure appeared on the screen. It was that woman. Ningxi hugged Xiaobao tightly in her arms and quickly rushed out of a complex building. She looked around vigilantly and then ran desperately into the distance. However, she did not know that what awaited her was not a chance of survival, but an inescapable trap that had been planned for a long time, a frenzied massacre. Without warning, a bang sound of a gunshot came from the mobile phone. Ningxi let out a low cry, and a flower of blood suddenly burst out from her wrist. Great despair and panic suddenly appeared on Ningxi's face. Ignoring the gunshot wound on her arm, she hugged Xiaobao tightly in her arms, raised her head, and looked around at the empty surroundings, as if there were countless giant beasts hiding, waiting to tear them apart. "Mommy?" Xiaobao immediately screamed, his little face full of horror. "Baby, don't be afraid. That's fake, it's fake. Mommy lied to you." Ningxi coaxed in an extremely gentle voice, and when the little boy wasn't paying attention, she controlled her strength and quickly patted the back of Xiaobao's neck. The little boy's panic-filled eyes slowly closed, and he fell into a deep sleep. Ningxi once again tied Xiaobao tightly, and then continued to run forward without hesitation. 10 meters, 50 meters, 100 meters, 200 meters, they were about to reach the next checkpoint. Bang. Another gunshot rang out. Ningxi knelt down on the ground with her right leg. Her back, which was bent like a shrimp to protect the child, trembled, and soon stood up again. Dragging her bleeding leg, she continued to run forward at a speed no less than before, running. He did not stop for even a moment. Even if she knew that she was surrounded by a group of ferocious beasts and had no chance of survival, even if the pain in her leg was heart-wrenching, she still wanted to escape. She wanted to escape. She wanted to escape with Xiaobao. She had promised Xiaobao the other party was like a cat chasing a mouse. Every time he saw that the girl could not hold on any longer, he would purposely ask her to stop so that she could catch her breath. When she almost saw hope, he would smash it into pieces with a single shot: arms, calves, abdomen, ankles. The other party did not shoot her vitals, but shot her up into the sky and back down. Even though the girl knew this and knew that it was a trick, she continued to move forward without hesitation after being thrown down again and again. Enough. Lu Chongshan clutched his heart that was in severe pain as he roared into the phone. I said enough.
What do you want? Yin Yi. What do you want?
You want the Lu family, right? I'll give it to you. Let the child go. Let him go.
Do you hear me?
The middle-aged man's face appeared on the phone. The man looked at the other party's pained expression and laughed maniacally. Ha ha ha. What do I want?
Lu Chongshan.
I want you to be in so much pain that you wish you were dead. I want you to live a life worse than death. I want you to watch the person closest to you die in front of you and be helpless. Chapter 1697. Every word from the man was like a sharp awl that pierced his chest and twisted it violently. The pain in Lu Chongshan's heart became more and more intense, and his face was pale. Looking at Lu Chongshan, who was completely out of control, the man sighed and shook his head sympathetically. However, his tone was extremely sarcastic and cold. I didn't expect Chairman Lu to have such a loyal side. I'm really surprised. After that, the man raised his hand to the person next to him. Okay, then let's give Chairman Lu a quick death. Lu Chongshan's eyes widened instantly, and he struggled to speak in a hoarse voice.
Yin Yi. How dare you?
You. An unbearable pain came from his heart. Lu Chongshan stopped talking halfway, and his vision went black. He fell to the ground with a thud. The phone fell to the ground. The second before he lost consciousness, he clearly saw the cannon shot in the direction of the girl's escape. A thick wall behind the girl collapsed, and the girl disappeared from his sight in an instant. All that was left was a broken wall, and a pool of bright red blood slowly flowed out from the cracks between the bricks, soaking the soil red. Lu Group Building. With a shrill sound, the pen in Lu Tingxiao's hand accidentally scratched the paper, leaving an ugly mark. The man pursed his thin lips and looked at the white paper filled with data in front of him. He frowned and his face darkened for some reason. Brother, the other party is dead this time. Lu Jingli ran over excitedly. Seeing Lu Tingxiao's expression, he asked nervously, Brother, what's wrong with you? Did we go wrong somewhere? Lu Tingxiao stood up immediately. Where's your sister-in-law? Lu Jingli did not expect him to change the topic so quickly and could not react for a moment. Xiao Sisi? She's at the old house. Didn't Mom and Dad go to the temple during the day? They asked Guan Ziao to stay at home for dinner, and Xiaobao also asked Xiao Sisi to stay.
Boss.
Come over here. One of the traders ran to Lu Tingxiao in a hurry. Boss, the other party still hasn't made a move. What should we do now? Should we continue to sell the shares in our hands? There are only 70,000 shares left. A voice came from the other side. This was a critical period, and Lu Tingxiao was everyone's helmsman. They couldn't afford to be distracted for even a second. Otherwise, the slightest mistake would cause all their previous efforts to be wasted, and they would be consigned to eternal damnation. Brother, what are you worried about? Xiaobao was here. Little Sisi would not be at a disadvantage. We're so close. Lu Jingli hurriedly urged. He was so close to getting rid of his brother's biggest rival in love. Ignoring Lu Jingli's urging, Lu Tingxiao raised his hand to ask the people around him to wait for a while, and then said to Lu Jingli, "Go pick up Ningxi now. I want to see her within my sight." Lu Tingxiao was stunned. Lu Jingli wailed, "Brother, are you serious? It's only been 6 days. Everything will be settled tomorrow. One more day won't make a difference." Lu Jingli immediately accepted the order and said, "I'll go receive you now." Just as Lu Jingli finished speaking, a figure stumbled in. Eldest young master. Second young master. No, bad news. Young master was kidnapped, and Miss Xiaoxi. Chapter 1698. What did you say?
Kidnap?
When did it happen? Xing Wu wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. Around 6:00 in the evening. Shit. Why did you tell us what happened in the evening in the early morning? What's going on? Hurry up and tell me. Lu Jingli roared anxiously as he questioned Yang Kai. Lu Tingxiao hadn't said a single word since he'd heard Xing Wu's words. His dark, bottomless eyes were like a huge abyss. Only now did he ask in a voice so cold that it could chill one's soul, "Are they still alive?" Lu Jingli, who was yelling at Xing Wu, suddenly heard Lu Tingxiao's words. He seemed to freeze and his blood was drained from his body. He didn't tell them what happened in the evening until now because he didn't want to disturb his brother's mind at such a critical moment. But now, why did he come here to tell them at all costs what happened in the middle of this? Xing Wu knelt down with a thud. His lips trembled for a long time before he finally said, "At present, I don't know if they're alive or dead." Lu Jingli scolded in a trembling voice, "They're alive and they're dead. What do you mean by not knowing if they're alive or dead? They don't seem to be threatening or blackmailing, but..." Xing Wu couldn't go on, but Lu Tingxiao and Lu Jingli had already understood what he meant. What they wanted was their lives. There was a terrible silence in the air. Lu Tingxiao made a call to someone and instructed them in a low voice. Then, he turned to Xing Wu and said, "Tell me everything that happened." Xing Wu immediately answered, "We were ambushed on the way out of Fahua Temple. The driver was bribed. Young master was taken away by a helicopter. As for Miss Xiaoxi, she chased after them and jumped onto the helicopter." Lu Jingli's eyes turned scarlet. Sister-in-law must have been afraid that Xiaobao would be alone, so she risked her life to follow them. Lu Tingxiao's face was expressionless. He picked up his cell phone and made a call. Lu Chongshan's weak voice came from the other end of the phone. "Hello, Tingxiao. I'm sorry this time. You..." "Hurry," Lu Tingxiao interrupted him. "Send me the video recording of the video call." Lu Chongshan was stunned. After a long time, he said, "Okay." Tingxiao didn't know the exact situation, but he already knew that the other party must have made a video call. But that video? If Tingxiao saw that video, "Father, you don't have to worry that I can't handle it." Lu Tingshan hung up after saying that. Lu Chongshan stared blankly at his phone that had been hung up. If possible, he hoped Tingxiao would never see that scene. But there was a possibility that the video contained an important clue. Soon, Lu Tingxiao's phone rang. He had received a video recording in his mailbox. Lu Tingxiao played the video. In the end, Lu Jingli punched the wall beside him. His fist was bloody. "Those bastards. I'll kill them." As for Lu Tingxiao, it was as if all human emotions had been extracted from him. He was just a pile of cold metal assembled into a machine. From beginning to end, there was no extra expression on his face as he quietly watched the content of the video. At the end of the video, there was a loud bang. The thick wall behind the girl exploded into pieces, burying the girl's body. Bright red blood soaked the ground beneath her. A moment later, 2 masked men dressed in black walked over from the side with guns in their hands. They roughly dragged the girl's body out from the ground. The girl's body was soaked in blood. Until the very last moment, she maintained her arched posture, blocking all the damage. She subconsciously protected the child in her arms. Chapter 1699. Even Xingwu's eyes were red, but Lu Tingxiao's face was still expressionless. Brother. Lu Jingli panicked when he saw Lu Tingxiao's calm reaction. It would have been fine if he had flown into a rage or even gone crazy, but looking at him like this after the video ended, Lu Tingxiao looked at Lu Jingli and said, "I'm sorry." As soon as he finished speaking, there was a loud roar outside the huge floor-to-ceiling window. A helicopter flew over from afar and was hovering over the company. Lu Tingxiao took one last look at the video on the phone, lowered his head, and kissed the phone screen gently. Then he jumped from the balcony and got on the helicopter. Lu Jingli clenched his fists and stared in the direction of the helicopter. He knew that Lu Tingxiao was apologizing because he had to leave at this moment. He had given up his family and the company for Ning Shi and Xiaobao. Lu Jingli rubbed his red eyes and turned his head away. Bastard. Why did he have to apologize? Why would he care about the company when his wife and children were already in such a state?
Was he still human?
Little Cici baby Xiaobao, nothing must happen to you, otherwise he really didn't know what would happen to his brother. There were 4 people on the helicopter that Lu Tingxiao was on. 3 of them were on his side. One was piloting the helicopter, the other 2 were locating the other party, and the last one was Tang Lang. Tang Lang repeatedly looked at the video on Lu Tingxiao's phone and shook his head apologetically. I've never seen this place before, and I don't know where it is. However, based on the time, it shouldn't be too far away. The people who can use so many firearms are definitely not in the country. We can definitely find them if we check the borders of the surrounding small countries one by one. It's just a matter of time. Tang Lang's expression changed when he said this. However, the most tricky thing now was the problem of time. Little junior sister couldn't wait any longer. From the video, even if little junior sister was still alive at this moment, she must have been seriously injured and wouldn't be able to hold on for long, not to mention Xiaobao, whose injuries were unknown. There were so many surrounding countries, and most of them had complex terrain. It was easier said than done to find such a small place in a short period of time. What he was most worried about was that little junior sister and Xiaobao might have been. After Tang Lang finished speaking, he nervously glanced at the man beside him, a hint of reverence appearing in his heart. His beloved woman and his only son had met with such a mishap, and it was even possible that they were already no longer in this world. Yet, he had held on until now without losing control and breaking down. Time slowly ticked by. Sure enough, after checking several places and using all his connections and networks, he still couldn't find where this place was. In the video, it was late at night. Other than the places where the strong light was shining, everywhere else was pitch black. It was indeed too difficult to identify. Since the other party wanted to torture them on purpose, he must have chosen the most secretive place. How could he let them find it so easily? Soon, 10 minutes had passed. Lu Tingxiao closed his eyes and remained motionless, as if he was concentrating all his attention to think, calming himself down and thinking. A moment later, Lu Tingxiao opened his eyes and quickly took out his phone to send an email. Then he made a call. Tang Lang saw that he wasn't looking for someone from the contact list. Instead, he pressed a string of numbers. For some reason, he felt that this phone number was a little familiar. Chapter 1700. After dialing the number, Lu Tingxiao spoke to the other end of the line. Read the email and reply to me in 10 seconds. After saying these 3 words, Lu Tingxiao hung up the phone and sat there quietly. Time passed by second by second. Lu Tingxiao's phone suddenly lit up with a ding sound as he counted to the 10th second in his heart. Lu Tingxiao opened his email and glanced at it. Then he said to the pilot, "Turn around and inform everyone. Country F, 31 degrees east longitude, north latitude." When Tang Lang heard Lu Tingxiao suddenly report an address and such accurate coordinates, he could not help but reveal a shocked expression. Who did Lu Tingxiao call? How did he find out the location in 10 seconds? 10 seconds was not enough to watch the video. Unless he knew the location immediately after watching the video and sent an email to Lu Tingxiao. Thinking of this, Tang Lang recalled the number that Lu Tingxiao had just dialed, and he was stunned. He remembered. Wasn't that one of Satan's private numbers? Lu Tingxiao had actually called him? What shocked him even more was that Satan actually sent him the address. Wasn't he the one who kidnapped them? Tang Lang's expression turned serious. Satan, I mean Yunshin. Can we trust his words? Will little junior sister and Xiaobao really be at the place he mentioned? Lu Tingxiao replied, "They will be." Finally, the plane arrived at Country F at top speed. Fortunately, Country F shared a border with Hua Nation and was very close to the capital. As expected, Satan did not go far soon. They saw a familiar building. From afar, they could vaguely see a building that looked very similar to the one in the video. This should be the place. Satan's address was real? When they got close to that place, they didn't waste any time and immediately got off the plane. However, they did not expect to be surrounded by a group of people as soon as they got off the plane. Tang Lang looked at their terrifying military equipment and the familiar symbols on their bodies. He finally realized that they had taken control of this place. He had no idea that this place was under their control because he had left the organization a long time ago. He guessed that this place was their trump card. If it weren't for Cloud Depths, no one would have known about this place. Seeing Ning Shi and Xiaobao were just near the building behind them, but they were blocked by a group of people. Lu Tingxiao, who had been calm and composed all the way, finally burst out a horrifying rage. However, even if they had the upper hand, it would still take a lot of time to deal with this group of people. At this moment, a silver helicopter descended from the sky. Before the helicopter had fully landed, a person jumped down from it. The man's silver hair danced wildly in the strong wind caused by the propellers. He looked at the people in front of him with the same hostility as Lu Tingxiao. The moment the man appeared, the people who were blocking Lu Tingxiao's way immediately revealed expressions of fear and awe. One of the leaders quickly stepped forward and said in fear and trepidation, "Satan, we were ordered by Uncle Qiao to stand guard here." Scram. Before the leader could finish his words, he met the other party's bone-chilling gaze. He immediately broke out in a cold sweat and did not dare to say a word more. He retreated and made way for the other party. The others also retreated like a receding tide, opening up a path. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.